Hello, everyone, and welcome to a CIS mini lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about file paths. Specifically, we're going to be looking at HTML, and we're going to look at an image element. We're going to look directly at the source attribute and how we can add a file path to our source attribute that will point directly to an individual file and get it right every time. Okay. Now, why this is important is because if you've ever noticed, if you're ever using a source or an href, or you're just trying to path from one file to another, no matter what language you're in, if you don't have the pathing correct, then you're not connecting those files correctly. And if they're not connected correctly, they can't actually interact. So when we have file paths, we have two different definitions. We want to look at an absolute and a relative. The absolute is going to describe the location of a file in a website's folder structure. So the absolute essentially is going to look at everything from the root folder perspective. With the relative definition, we're going to point to a file relative to the current page. So if you're writing an image element and you need to add a source attribute, you're going to end up where you're looking at the page that you're on, and you want to figure out where that file is relative, or I should say, you need to figure out where the file that you want to put into, that you want to grab from. So the image that you may want to grab from in this particular case, you want to know how to get there, what the directions are essentially from that page you're on into the image that you want to get, that you want to retrieve. So if we look at it from this perspective here, that the image is located in basically exact same place, same hierarchy as the current page, then we're going to have something as simple as this. This is traditional, sort of normal image source, value. And if I go ahead and I open this up in the browser, we're going to see that our image does actually render. And for good measure, we're going to go down here and just check that our image is actually just the image itself. There is no further pathing that was needed. We have rocks.webp, and these are both in the same hierarchy. So index.html is in the same hierarchy, same folder as rocks. Now, if we need to go one level down, what we would do is we could replace that previous element. And actually, I'm just gonna type in here, say images. Okay, so I add images. Now, of course, I haven't moved my image yet, so my image isn't showing. But if I go ahead and I move my image into this, into this images folder, there we go. So I went ahead, I moved my images into the images folder, and we can clearly see that the image did render. Why? Well, because if I want to go one level down, that means that I'm going to be in the same folder, but my image is stored inside of another folder. So my image being inside the images folder, if I root down one more level, I get to rocks. So here I'm acknowledging the fact that I need to start at images, and then I need to root down one more level to get to the actual file that I need. Now, if we want to go the opposite direction and we want to go up one level, okay, so once again, we have our rocks. And so to exemplify this, I'm going to move rocks into this IMG file, or excuse me, IMG folder. Okay, so what we're seeing here is we have index, and then we need to go up one level to file paths. And then we need to go to the image folder and eventually to rocks. So to be able to achieve this, what we've got is we've got this ... That's going to bring us outside of our file paths, or that's going to bring us outside of our parent file paths folder. We're going to then go image to get us into our image folder, and we have our rocks. So if I go ahead, I press enter, we see that our image actually renders to the page. Now, The last one that I wanted to look at is, and I'm going to take our rocks image and put it back in the images folder within our file path, so back inside of our project. And here, what I'm going to do is I just want to update this to use a full absolute path. To do so, I'm going to use my /, and then I'll say file paths, because I want to act as if I'm in my mini lesson folder. So if I close each of these, so if I close each of these down, we see that all of these are inside of a mini lesson folder. So I've got this / that's going to bring me all the way to there. I've got file paths, and then I can go back in here. It'll let me click in. There we go. File paths, I can put images, and then I put rocks, and I am good to go. I press enter, and my image is rendered. So now, so last piece here is that best practices. When it comes to best practices, it is best to always use relative paths, because while generally speaking, your project paths may not change, your root path may change because you may take your project and put it somewhere else. So it is best to use relative paths. I hope that that clarifies some of the any confusion you may have when it comes to file pathing. And I hope you come around for another CIS mini lesson sometime soon.